we have a good amount of people here, we can go ahead and get started. So as everyone knows, hopefully this is Overpass Sales Manager Dennis Hamilton, who will be discussing our topic for today, which is kind of just going to focus on like the sales process, sales structure, sales strategy. So you all can kind of begin thinking about that more as you apply for jobs with clients and are working with clients. So I will leave it to Dennis to take it from here, and we'll go ahead and get started. Dennis?
Awesome. Good day, everybody. Let me get my desktop shared real quick, and we will go into this. So we've done about 12 episodes of Remote Sales Live. We started with some very, very basic topics like goal setting, how to fill your profile out, interviewing it. We've gone all the way through, I think, a 3-part series on closing transactions and how to get the deal closed up. So what we thought we would do this round is take a look at just some core concepts. How does sales work in a nutshell? What does that department look like inside any given business? And then kind of do 2 to 3 weeks about client expectations, get into more of the psychology of the average client and things that you can really use, not only to give you a better perspective of how a sales organization works, but also be able to relate better to your clients, especially when you're first starting a new contract. One of the most critical times, client will have expectations, we'll have expectations, and it's a matter of getting those to sync up and getting started and ramping up the initiative as fast as you can. So let me go ahead and share my PowerPoint and we'll get started and start going through some of these things. Mia, is that displaying okay? Mia, is that displaying okay?
Oh, I forgot you can't see me give the thumbs up. Looks great, Dennis, thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so let's talk about creating a sales effort. So for example, let's say me, Dennis Hamilton. I'm starting a new company and I've got a good product or a good service, but what I need to do is finish up my sales strategy of how I'm actually going to get this product or service to market. Because if I don't, I just literally don't have a viable business entity. So let's take a look at some of the pieces that are designed around that. Why is this so important? So if a client doesn't design this core structure out of the chute, it leads to a lot of confusion and can lead to some pretty poor results. The sales effort kind of identifies how to get the product or service to market, but the lack of sales are what will create early business failures. So there's a saying in business that most businesses fail because they aren't properly capitalized. I have taught and preached my entire life that that is a misnomer. Most businesses fail because they don't sell sufficient product at market to create a sustainable business. It's literally that easy. So if this sort of strategy hasn't been done in the beginning or before you would start your contract, let's say, it'll be a little harder contract to get adjusted to. But let's go through the basics of the elements. So I have this product or service and I have this concept and I'm going to dominate the world because I just built the best mousetrap in that industry segment. So one of the first things that I need to do is define that market segment or do market segmentation. So let's say that I just started Overpass, since it's something we're more familiar with. Who would my ideal customer profile be at Overpass? And we'll unpack that some more. How am I going to reach them? My marketing effort. So how am I going to reach them so they understand that not only I'm available and have a viable product, but unpack their active pain and see that it's something that they would be interested in and in turn buy my product. But marketing is more of the point of interest. There's 2 parts of marketing. One is to build the interest to have the conversations to sell your product. And the other one is brand recognition, because brand recognition over time, you will get to a point where you start creating contacts by osmosis without near as much marketing effort. Then you've got to say, well, how am I going to convert these folks to sales once I get them started? So that's literally where our core 3 roles come into play of the sales development representative, SDR, business development representative, BDR, and the account executive, or AE, or sales. So 3 core positions that are literally an SDR, a BDR is literally kind of like a higher end appointment setter, where a sales development representative will do more qualifying with that customer and make sure they're a good fit before turning them over to the account executive. And then the account executive is the one doing final disclosure of the value prop, negotiating terms, and getting that deal closed down. Next topic, how am I going to take care of them after the sale? So I've seen a lot of organizations that were brilliant at sales, but they were not great at customer support. Overpass has Garrett's team and Mia's team that are absolutely amazing as far as customer support, reaching out, being communicative with both the clients and the contractor base to make sure that we get rid of any miscommunication as soon as possible. But if you don't have that good back end support, it doesn't matter how much you sell if you don't have any account retention. And then the last point is, okay, once I have all those pieces in place and my sales are starting, how do I scale? How far do I want to grow? So we're going to walk through each one of these points individually, and then at the end, kind of go through how that relates to you and your overpass role. So first, let's look at a typical organization chart example. Every organization will have a different sales org chart based on their particular product, service, ideal customer, etc. But this is kind of a general overview of what a fully built out sales department would look like. So at the top of that chart, you would have they could be called a CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, Director of Sales, Director of Sales and Marketing, all sorts of unique titles you can find, but usually a director level position or VP position, depending on the size of the organization, over this department. Out to the right of that, you would have sales operations or marketing operations. These are people that handle the more technical side of the business. Hey, is the CRM updated? Do we have these reports? Let me help with boarding customers, etc., and not necessarily as much as the sales side of the organization. So below the director and sales support, you basically have 3 different components no matter what the company is. You have a marketing component. That can be split into 2 different areas, digital marketing and brand marketing. Now, in the old days, it was you would go get a $2 million television advertising budget to tell people about your new product and service. The internet has totally excluded that from our current reality. So now usually you have a digital play for how am I going to reach out to customers and get their attention, and you have a brand play of how do I long-term build a well-known brand so I'm looked at as an industry leader. In that middle bracket, we've got sales. So usually you would have a sales manager underneath the director. You would have account executives. Underneath that, depending on the size of the organization, you could have a business development manager, or sales development manager. And then you would have that business development rep, sales development rep roles underneath that. So marketing is attracting interest. Leads. The BDRs and SDRs are doing initial engagement with those leads, warming up the client to the concept, passing that to the account executive. Now, once that deal is booked, that brings us over to the 3rd tier of this tree, or the support function inside the organization. So that goes more to a CSR, or customer service rep. Now, you may go, well, that's not a sales position. Well, it really usually is, because in most CSR positions, not only are you solving, but you're also looking at cross-selling or upselling opportunities. So kind of like whoever you have your internet service through, and when you call in for a support item at the end, they go, hey, we do have a new package available where you can get your phone, your internet, and your cable TV, all for a special promotional price of this. That would be an upselling or cross-selling opportunity. Okay, so let's start at the target market segmentation. First thing you have to define is, who am I going to sell to? Who needs my product or service the most? From there, I've got to do some research and figure out how many companies or people are in that space. So who is a certain segment of the market that has an acute need for my product or service? And usually need is one of the key identifiers to look at of who would be the most likely to purchase that product or service. Can you define them and put them in a list? I've had businesses in the past where it was very easy because I may only have had, I remember one business, I had 6,500 potential people that I would do business with. They were marine, RV, and motorcycle dealerships. That becomes very easy because I could have a small 3-man business development or sales development team, and I can get up to 12 touch points a year on 6,500 people, whether that be an email, a phone call, even old school direct mail piece, whatever the case may be. I could reach and have a decent amount of touch points on them every single year. Other businesses like B2C, your possible market base may be 20 million people. Totally different approach. So here you're almost forced to go into a digital space for that market segmentation to be able to attract them. The next thing in there is, why are these my ideal customers? What makes them unique that is going to make them have a need for my product or service? So let's say I was an internet service provider, and I knew that one of the things that I can compete on is price. And I can sell the exact same service at a lower price because I'm not spending as much in marketing. And usually this is a 3-way balancing act where you got to spend somewhere to get the penetration. So if you go in with a price value proposition, you have to make sure that you can get the volume or speak to enough people to generate enough sales to create a profitable business. And then the next question is, what are those clients' average customer personas? And let me unpack that. That would be almost like profiling, but in a positive sense. What's the profile of this average customer? So let's say I'm an internet service provider, but I want to deal with small businesses. So my customer persona would be a small business who has older technology, who can benefit from a cost proposition of upgrading that technology inside their office space, get rid of conventional phones, go to a voice over IP system, improve their internet speed, etc. That would be the list of people, and the average person is going to be easier to get a hold of because they're a small business. I can kind of start unpacking these core ideas. They're going to have a bit of a maverick personality. Many small business owners have the kind of that overbearing, aggressive personality. A lot of them are kind of choleric, so I'm going to have to approach them rapidly because they may make business decisions very quickly, but I've got to be able to get my value proposition in front of them very quickly as well. And then, do they retain your services long term? So are they going to be, if I have a recurring revenue business model, are they going to retain my services for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, which builds exponential top line revenue inside of a business? Second thing to look at, how am I going to reach them? The marketing side. So I have these 1.5 million small businesses that I'm going to market voice over IP and internet service to. What is my digital and brand strategy to get to my target, to get the audience's attention? Some of the first things you have to look at when you start that is, who am I competing against? Who are my competitors? Make a list of all those competitors. What value do you have versus them? A comparative analysis. What do I bring to the table that my competitors don't bring? Could be price, could be service, could be functionality, could be product quality. There's a lot of different things that could be, but you have to be able to differentiate yourself from your competitors in the market. Why is my product better or different? Which is kind of just a continuation of what I just said. Define what makes you unique in the market space and build your marketing around that message. What tools do I need for outreach? So do I want to hire in-house marketing people? Do I want to hire a digital marketing company that are experts in this, that will do my search engine optimization in my Facebook or Instagram or whatever advertising I would use to get the attention of that marketplace? Some of the beautiful things today in the digital world is, for instance, I can go on Facebook, identify people that are self-employed, own small businesses, enjoy fine dining in Italian restaurants, love Van Halen music, and have over 2.5 children. Even something as simple as Facebook today on the advertising side, you can get that granular in who you're talking to. So there's a lot of tools, business to business, Salesforce, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Every one of my account executives has a Salesforce Navigator account. It gives us a ton of information and communication with other people in the business world. Lots of different tools, but which one do I need? CRM systems, telephones, etc. And then what is my messaging? What type of messaging am I going to need? What makes me unique? But not only that, but what is that customer's average pain point, right? What is their business issue? And how do I speak to that pain and address that issue to originally get their attention? Because if I can't get their attention, the rest of the sales team is not going to have a whole lot to do. You're going to have a really small sales team. So let's move on. How am I going to convert them to sales? So I've got their attention. Now we're having an initial conversation with a business development rep or a sales development rep or even an account executive. How do I convert prospects into income and customers? Now it gets really granular. Am I going to use Zoho? Am I going to use HubSpot? Am I going to use Salesforce? Am I going to use a plethora of other CRM options which now exist in the marketplace? What dialers am I going to use? What is our sales sequence in Cadence? Am I going to contact this prospect 13 times over 2 weeks? Or am I going to contact them 23 times over 12 months? What is that cadence? What is my sales cycle? Is it very fast? Well, if it's a very fast sales cycle, my sequence is probably going to be fast. Maybe I'm contacting them 6 times over 6 working days. Where if I have an enterprise level product and my usual boarding time is 6 months, I probably need about a 6-month sequence to get those clients to the next step and get that sale executed. So kind of defining that sequence, cadence, scripts, presentation, value proposition, etc. How much do we need to sell to stay profitable? If your client's not doing those numbers up front, they're almost predestined for failure. They need to know how much product do I need to sell at margin, considering my other business expense, to make this a viable enterprise. Do I have all the tools and marketing materials they will need? So if I'm just picking up the phone and calling people like 1988, probably not the best plan. It's going to be a mixture of marketing materials, supporting documents, third-party testimonials, text, email, LinkedIn, phone call. We have probably 8 different types of touch points in our sequencing with Overpass clients. So do we have supporting materials for all those? Yes, we have a plethora of supporting materials. So like when your client first boards with us, we even have a post-sale sequence where we give them training outlines and we give them 90-day success plans with Overpass and lots of supporting materials. When they first come to us and post a job, we have 5 supporting documents we give them. How to write effective sales scripts, where they can locate leads, 5 steps to initial sales success. Not sure I can rip all these off my head in one fell swoop, but all the things that how to do a 30-minute interview. So all of these things that they would need to know before they go into the interview process. How am I going to take care of them after the sale? So now we've boarded a client, we have a sale. More times than not, unless you're selling pet rocks or a pair of scissors or something very basic, there's going to be some after-sales service, whether in a physical product that be a warranty, or whether in a service it be ongoing service, monthly, quarterly, etc. What does my service and retention structure look like? How will I onboard customers? Just because they're sold doesn't mean they're great customers yet. There's always some sort of boarding or onboarding process that goes with that to make sure that transition into your product or service is an easy fit. How do I make sure they're happy with my product and service? Am I checking back with them? Do I have ongoing messaging? What's my average response time in my customer support department? All of those things are going to define customer experience, which will in turn define length of customer retention. How long am I going to keep that customer? How do I retain my customers and cross-sell or upsell for additional products and services? So even in that service component, the least expensive prospect that you will ever find is an existing customer. So if you have any adjacent products, services, support, whatever the case may be, customer service is the perfect time for those upsell or cross-sell opportunities. Do you have bundled services where they purchased one service to start with, but they can purchase a bundle at a discount? That's the exact place you want to be going through those, unpacking those sales ideas with your current client base. And then the last question here, how am I going to scale? And you'll hear that, you know, companies reach a certain level and they just kind of plateau. That's a wives' tale. That does not happen. Companies do one of two things. They grow or they shrink. Companies historically do not plateau. So if you're not constantly scaling, your company's getting smaller. So it's a matter of how am I going to scale? Not if I'm going to scale, how am I going to scale? Customer retention, you may lose clients. Those need to be replaced by new revenue to maintain your expense load inside the organization. So first things first, what additional tools do I need to scale, right? Do I need a second after-sale marketing effort? Do I need additional marketing efforts, pass a digital strategy to a physical strategy, survey questions? What do I need to keep that ball rolling? How does my story end? This is actually the most important question. And I did consulting work for about 18 years with small businesses and even some medium and larger businesses. And one of the first things we unpack and the first questions we ask, how does your story end? Why do you own this business? Do you plan on this being a generational business that you pass on to your children? Do you plan on it being a growth business that you one day sell? Do you plan on raising capital and eventually doing an initial public offering and going public and selling stock? But if the client can't define how their story ends, it's very hard to build a roadmap on how to get there. So let's say if a business owner said, hey, in the next 7 to 10 years, I want to be able to sell this for about 5 times earnings. 5 times annual earnings is what that would be. Great. What do you want that final number to look like? Well, it would be great if I could get $5 million out of the company because that would help me retire and I'm not holding any debt. Great. So at 7% annual return, that'd make you about $350,000 a year. Is that what, are you content with that number? Yes, I'm elated with that number. Great. Let's take every asset you have, put it into a big basket, see which ones you have on the table, which ones you're lacking. Then we're going to get your key management into that process to find what skills they have that you may not have identified. And then the leftovers is what I'll help you with, whatever that happens to be. Is it a marketing issue, sales issue, ops issue, management issue, etc.? That's where we can help you out. We form a strategic plan to execute against that to drive toward how that story ends. Long explanation for a very short phrase. How many people do I need to get this done? So when you design a good organizational chart, like the one I showed you before, which is very basic, when that story ends, how does my organization look? How many employees do I need? What are the positions I'm going to need to execute, right? How many of those do I currently have? How many of those are vacant? Who do I have that has management potential that I can promote from within rather than having to recruit? Way easier from an outside source. How will I train and manage them? What is the training curriculum? What is the management style? Like, I love data. I look at all of our data every single morning, but I don't manage off of data. I look at data to find coaching opportunities to work with my team. So that's my management style. Some people may be more autocratic or dictatorial. Some people may be much more cooperative of, hey, what do you guys think we ought to do? Those sort of approaches. But what's that management style that will help drive your product to market the best? And then what should my sales acquisition cost be? This is super important, even as contractors, because what will happen is in a rapidly scaling company, let's say it's a service-based company, I can afford when I'm first starting and first scaling to invest 35 up to 40% of my gross profit directly back into sales and marketing. Why? That's a very high number. Why? I want to grow the company rapidly to get scale, increase net revenues. At that point, once I scale past that and create more sales with less people, that sales acquisition cost will go down. Benchmark to speak of. So if there's a standard guideline in the service industry, 25% sales acquisition cost, 10% marketing cost. That's the industry standard. So you want to go, hey, am I rapidly scaling? Am I willing to pay more in acquisition just to make sure I keep growing? Or have I come to a point where I'm fairly comfortable, want to optimize everything I have, but start bringing that sales acquisition cost down? Okay, let's get to the conclusionary part of this. Why does this matter to us? That's the conclusion, right? Why does it matter to us in Overpass? First of all, different Overpass roles can have very different responsibilities. So if you look at a CSR versus a BDR versus an SDR versus a sales ops versus a managerial versus a marketing position, lots of different skill sets there. That's why on your profiles, we look at what industries, what physical experience have you had before to look for the best match of contractors to fit with that particular client. Make sure you're picking the right role to complement your skill sets. I can't tell you how many times a day we look at people that have applied for jobs that have no business applying for that job. They have no relevant experience, skill set, or anything else that would benefit that client. So you may think that's a benefit. Let me just apply to everything and see if I can get it. That's not a benefit, because I'll tell you exactly what will happen with my team. They'll do custom searches in the database, ignore everybody that applied, and bring key people to the table based on the info that you have inside your Overpass profile. So pretty important. Pick the right role that matches your skill sets. Doesn't mean you don't want to move up and refine your skills. We'll talk to that in a minute. If you want to grow your career, study the art of sales and marketing. If you are not doing any sort of continuous development, I have been in sales for over 30 years. I still listen to 4 to 5 podcasts a week, minimum one a day on every work day of the week, and still burn through 1 book a month, right? Continuing development. What am I doing to continually develop my skills? And you might think, after 35 years, you still need to do this. Yes. Why? Markets change, products change, techniques change, buying motivations change. So the market, the only constant in any market is change. So if you don't keep up with the latest best practices inside your career space, you're never going to grow in your position. You're always going to cap out at a certain income level, and that's where you're going to live the rest of your career. So unless you're constantly learning and developing yourself, don't expect to keep moving up the ladder just because you have seniority or longer term in a particular position. And then be an asset to the organization and help your client even with some of these items I went over. If you have practical experience there and you see your client may be failing in this area, maybe marketing, tee them up some suggestions. Some of the best people on my team are the people that will tee up suggestions to me. I'm like, I did not think of that in that regard. That is a very good point, right? Kind of be consultative with your clients at the same time if you have good ideas, obviously, within that space. If you're not an asset to that organization, you're probably not going to keep that contract long term, because the only thing that client has to look at, what is my sales acquisition cost on this particular seat? How much is it costing me for them to create the number of sales they create? And let's say your number is 50, 60%, you're not long for the world in that contract, because the average business owner can't afford to pay that sort of sales acquisition cost to bring new clients through the door. And then constantly grow and improve, and people are always like, over my career, they're like, how much money do you make? How much money do you make? Or how much are you making doing that? And I'm like, you know what I do? I just go in and do the very best job that I possibly can. And one way or the other, the money takes care of itself. I will say that, saying that I've obviously made decent money in my own businesses. I've worked for other countries on work contracts where I made close to $500,000 a year every year. So I would say I'm pretty advanced in my sales career, but yet I'm still constantly learning. I'm still constantly growing. I'm still constantly looking for ways to be a better dentist and refining those skills. And when I do that and I focus on that, It's hilarious how the income always takes care of itself. I've never had a problem paying my bills in sales my whole life. It's been a great run, right? It's been a fantastic experience, but only because I put in the work. So as always, I'll leave off and we'll do some Q&A with, we can do this. If you invest in this learning curve and sharpen your skills all the time as a sales professional, you're going to find that you will exceed every income expectation you ever thought you would have. So with that, I'm going to kind of turn it over to Mia and do some Q&A. But in the Q&A, it can be relative to today's webinar that we went over, but it could also be other questions about Overpass. It's always great when it's relative to the topic, but all questions are good questions if you have them. So from here, Mia, let's start that.
Amazing. So as always, you can put your question in the chat or in the Q&A section. So I'll give people a few moments to do that. We actually already have a question, Dennis, but it's more related to interviews. So Ahmed asks, he can't find an interview and he didn't receive an answer from a client after applying. So Ahmed, I'm actually going to have you speak to that one to give us a bit more context. I know sometimes the interview functionality on the platform can be a bit difficult to navigate. So I will go ahead and unmute you so you can give us more. Oh, I don't even think he's on anymore. Well,
you scared him, Mia.
I guess I scared him off, but maybe we can talk more in general about interviews. Dennis, if you have any sort of
let me unpack that statement because I didn't understand the question. So you won't ever be able to find an interview, so to speak. They're always going to come to you. Those interview requests will come in one of two formats. They'll all be through your email or inside the system in case of Overpass as well. But those interviews are going to be requests directly from the client or my team. If my team is setting up interview block for a client, they're going to be reaching out to you and you'll see a Google Meet request from them. If the client's reaching out to you, you'll see a system generated request for a video and or a phone interview. Now, with that caveat of saying this, which is fantastic news, and not very much more time, every single interview we have is going to be conducted on the Overpass system, which is amazing. We have a little bit more functionality to set up there, but we're very, very close. And I think some of you have probably already been on video interviews that are client directed and client booked. The reason that we're moving them all to Overpass is we're building a dashboard to where we can, on the account executive or the client side, we can help schedule, cancel, move, change, set interview blocks. But remember, those interview requests will always come to you. The one thing you can do until then is look at every word, every sentence, every job experience, everything in that profile and make sure it's perfect. Because we are searching through a series of about 15 filters in the database to find you. And if you're ready to work, or if you're considering opportunities, or if you have relevant experience with that client, et cetera. Does that answer that question? Yeah.
I think it does. And we're excited to transition to the fully on platform interview capability.
Yeah.
So we will keep you all updated with that.
Not using dual systems is a beautiful, lovely thing. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
J. Michael Martinez asks, Dennis, do you have any recommendations for some quality sales and marketing podcasts that you listen to?
Yeah, so just a few that I listen to, which, may be relative to your stage of life, but like on LinkedIn, I listen to Brian Burns, who is more of a higher end, higher product sales coach. I listen to Alan Langer, who is a kind of a core basics, core of sales type podcast. He has several different events that he hosts. I listen to our Overpass podcast, the Evolve Sales Leader, because we invite sales professionals on every single week and unpack different ideas from everything from remote work to marketing to current client state, industry state, et cetera. Those are amazingly good webinars, and Jonathan Fisher does an amazingly good job at hosting that. Like, I look at him and I'm going, dude, I have no idea how you're that good. Just so you know, Jonathan used to be an account executive, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad he went to that. Not that he was a bad account executive, but he just kills those podcasts. Evolve Sales Leader is another one. I'm just giving you some, I mean, there's like literally hundreds of these. So if I find that I need to get some more background in a certain area, I'll even go on to some marketing podcasts because I'm not really the best marketer in the world. I'm more of the sales guy. And so I'll find some best of breed marketing guys and listen to some of their podcasts. I also will go back about every 3 to 5 years and I'll listen to the classics. I'll listen to Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Og Mandino, Norman Vincent Peale, just your basic core sales books that have been primers and Bibles for decades and decades and decades. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. And I got some good, I'm a good podcast person too, Dennis. So I got some good recommendations. We have a couple or one more question that came through, and it's kind of more of a meta question, Dennis. This person asks, what matters more for Overpass, clients or contractors? So I think we can both speak to this in a way.
They're mutually inclusive. We can't do business without both. So the client nor the contractor is more important. I would say that if you looked at our stock and trade as Overpass, the contractor is more important because without them, we can't attract clients.
I would agree. I was going to talk about how central contractors are to the platform and to our success as well as the client's success. So you all really are the things that keep us going, the people that keep us going. Well, this is just a shout out to you, Dennis, from Brent. He's just excited to be on the Overpass team and looking forward to training on Monday. And again, another example of a contractor who has since joined the Overpass team. So maybe Dennis, you could speak to kind of that process of building the team a bit.
Sure. So we've launched 2 new major marketing initiatives in the last 6 months, and we have literally more leads than we have time for my current team to follow up on them all, which is a beautiful, gorgeous problem to have. I have no complaints there. So our team is even expanding out to 14 starting Monday. So we have 2 people that do lead generation work for us. We have 1 person, Tanith, in sales operations. We have myself. And then starting Monday, we will have, 15. We will have 11 account executives starting on Monday. So we're rounding out. This is just the sales team. We have a different marketing department and a different team there. But that tells you how much market demand we're having and how many new clients are coming into the fold. We had a little bit of a downtrend during when we were setting up those new campaigns, which is typical. You start anything new and there's going to be some adjustment period. We still have all the old client contact sources that we've always had through our bread and butter. But I could not be more encouraged about how our lead flow is going, growth rate is going, and how we truly have a need to scale out the department to meet the client demand.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis. Does anyone else have any other questions that either they want to speak? You can raise your hand or pop them in the chat. We'll give everyone just a couple more minutes. And if we don't have any other burning questions, we can give you all back some time today and discuss our topics for next time. So I will give everyone just a second.
And while you're giving them a second, I might say this too, like some of you may feel like, oh my gosh, well, we can't find work, and I've said this every single webinar, and I'll never stop saying it. Go back to your profile, look at your recording, look at your hours of availability, make sure to list every experience in every industry you've ever had. Because it could be that you don't have sales experience in that industry, but maybe you worked in a restaurant. And I have a client that sells restaurant point of sale systems. This is something you can learn rapidly. But if I don't know that you worked in a restaurant ever, I can't find you to tee up to that customer because it doesn't look like you have relative experience. So the more time you focus on that profile, the higher your likelihood of getting found. We're getting ready to even expand in a few more months our algorithm, because the computer recommends the client profiles when they first come in. Then my team finds hand-picked profiles, and then there's applicants. So there's 3 different buckets of applicants this client has that they're finding the best people out of to interview. Do you have any more questions?
No, I was just going to say that's a great point and give a brief overview for next time, unless you have something you wanted to add, Dennis.
No, that's fine. So we're going to go into kind of client expectations. So me and my team, we talk to clients every day. I stay very involved in our sales process. I'm probably on 10% of every discovery call we do. Well, I mean, I can't be on all of them. It's theoretically impossible, but about 1 out of 10. So I try to stay really involved with clients. And so we hear all day long about client expectations, even after they've boarded. So next week, I want to kind of talk about post-hire client expectations, pre-hire client expectations, and then post-hire client expectations. And let's go through so you can kind of dig into the head of the average client of ours, which will not only help you as far as starting your position, but it'll also help you finding a job when you're in that interview.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You all will see that information in our Facebook group and via email. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much, Dennis, for all of the helpful information. This will be posted to our Facebook group. One final question in the last second. Any customer service jobs coming?
Yes, we're getting more and more. Keep in mind that we only started actively promoting customer service roles inside Overpass in the last 90 days. In other words, putting it into our marketing materials and actively going after CSR roles. Yes. Now, we're still just trickling in on CSR roles, but it's constantly growing. And the more our marketing penetrates, the higher that number is going to become. So yes, we are constantly getting more CSR roles inside the organization.
Perfect.
Actually, my son is an Overpass contractor that just got off a contract that was a customer service role.
Yes, so if you do have customer service, make sure to add that to your profile, very clear customer service rep, because that demand will continue to increase as time goes on. So good question. Great. Well, everyone, thank you all. Have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever. And Dennis, thanks again for your time. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Let's kill it, guys. Have a great week.